All right, everybody, welcome to Samurai Blitz. I hope you're having a great Wednesday night. It's hump day, so we're almost through the week, man. This week's been tough on me. We have a very special guest. I'm very honored to have him here. His name's John Fabricatore. My bad. Fabricatore. There you go. Yeah, I need a cannoli or something. We got John here. He is a retired field officer. I'm sorry, retired field office director for ICE in the Denver area. He's also former MMA fighter, which is pretty cool, and I really want to talk about that. And yeah, welcome to the show, sir. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on the show, man. I'm psyched to be here. We're gonna have a good time talking about some stuff. But just to dive into my history a little bit, I grew up in New York, went to high school out on Long Island, joined the Air Force a long time ago. I'm an old dude. Back in 1991, served in the United States Air Force, became a federal agent in 1996, served in INS and then ICE. Rose up through the ranks in ICE, was a supervisor for fugitive operations, assistant field office director, deputy field office director, deputy chief of staff for Joint Task Force West, and then field office director for the Denver field office, which covers all of Colorado and Wyoming. I retired in 2022, ran for Congress and lost, got my butt beat. But it was a good experience. It was like one of those bucket list things that I wanted to do. I wanted to get out there, wanted to get involved in politics and run for Congress. So I did it. Like you said, I'm involved in MMA since the early 2000s. Brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Wrestled since I'm a kid. Just your regular guy. Now retired. I wrote a book. Just a bunch of stuff, man. Just a bunch of stuff.
You wear many hats, sir. You're very
It's all
humble, by
noise.
the way.
It's
I'm
all
over
noise.
here. I'm just some guy. Dude, that is amazing. That's an amazing resume, man. My resume would be like 5 seconds and then it's over. But very glad to have you here. Talking about the MMA stuff, man. What got you into MMA?
It was about controlling fear, really, man. So, being in law enforcement, working fugitive operations and stuff like that, you have this fear response, when you're out on the street, when you're going in to serve warrants and stuff like that. And there's not really a good way to train that for officers. So the best way for me to train that was to get in a cage, have the door locked behind me, and learn how to control that fear in that kind of situation. I think it's important for officers to know how to handle themselves and know how to do it right, because it's actually safer when an officer knows how to be able to control somebody and control their own fear response. So for me, MMA was never about really, trying to get any accolades, or anything like that. It was always just about like kind of, proving something to myself about being able to control fear and those kind of situations. Because look, man, I was fearful every time that I went into the cage, man. I had 30 tough man fights, 8 MMA fights, and every time I stepped in the ring or got in a cage, I was scared. I'll admit it, but learning how to control that fear and being in those crazy environments is a great training thing for people.
Yo, for sure, man. I can imagine everybody in there has a little bit of fear. You're just not going to show it. That Mike Tyson stare down that he always talks about. I mean, it's incredible.
Tyson always says he was scared.
That,
Tyson admits it these days that he went into a lot of
yeah.
fights and he was a little bit scared, but he had that thing going on, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's that psychological warfare, man. Like I'm gonna eat you alive. That look he gave, and that was a crazy look that he used to give people, man. I mean, anybody in the right mind would be scared of that man.
I used to love watching him for sure.
Oh yeah. So that's pretty cool that you conquered your fears like that. That's a hard sport, man. Just having somebody take you down and just hold you there. I've heard that's very just demoralizing in every which way. I heard you talking about even like real skinny people, beefcake kind of guys and all that, and you can never tell, right, of how that fight's gonna go.
Yeah, for sure. Like you should never look at somebody and assume what they know. That's the biggest thing for me. When I was really early in my federal career, I had just gotten divorced, so I needed to make some extra money. So I was actually bouncing at some bars here in Denver, and I'm 6 foot tall. Back then, I was about 225 pounds. Decent sized guy. But you know, you never looked at I never looked at a smaller guy or a guy that looked maybe out of shape and thought, you know, I can definitely, you know, handle that guy. Everyone to me has the same ability because I don't know what their ability is. You know, so you know, I always tried to handle every situation like, you know, the person could be a ninja. You know, you just never know for sure.
Yeah, like they say, never underestimate your enemies, man.
Yes.
I forgot what is who was that? Saint Pierre said that, I believe.
Yeah.
So who's the most exciting fighter? Do you watch it? Do you watch a UFC or anything right now?
Yeah, yeah. I still, you know, I still watch UFC. Try to catch a lot of the fights. You know, you know, I'm old school, man. I still like a lot of the strikers, guys who can get in there and strike. You know, but also have a good wrestling background. You know, to be able to sprawl and be able to be, you know, kept from being taken down. Uh, you know, we're starting to not see, you know, a lot of those guys. A lot of them have been exposed by the really good wrestlers and you know, so you know, I definitely keep my eye on it. There's definitely some guys that I still pay attention to.
Yeah, the best people right now are the wrestlers, man. The Russians took over. It used to be the
Yeah.
Brazilians. Now the Russians just like are dominating every
Yeah,
aspect of that sport right
the
now.
wrestling, the Russian wrestling program is intense. I mean, those guys are just cardio monsters. They're really good, you know, aggressive wrestlers, and they actually will strike too. I mean, some of those guys have some pretty decent hands too.
Yeah, for sure. And all they do is like they wake up, they work out, they pray, they eat, they pray, they work out, they pray. It's just like a, I mean, that's why they have no outside. You know, you see Americans when they get big in that game, they be like, you know, Sean O'Malley, right? He gets big and he's doing great. And he's out there partying with Jake Paul and everybody else. And they're having, you know, it's kind of hard. You get all that money, you're gonna wild out, especially if you're
Yeah.
young. And these guys, they win a fight, a major fight, and they go straight right back into the gym, man. It's like they're a different kind of animal. And I was gonna say, I think to be able to get into octagon, you got to have that mindset of like you got to be a little crazy. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
no, for sure. Like it's definitely something, you know, for you know, to know that you're walking down, you're hearing your music play, and you're about to get in a cage and be locked in a cage with another human being. The bell's gonna sound, and you're gonna be in a physical fight. You know, a lot of times when you get into a physical confrontation, it just happens, right? It's organic.
Mhm.
But to train up to that point and actually, you know that you're about to get in a fist fight any minute now. You know, there's something to be said for that, man. There's a little bit of a psychological thing to that.
Yeah, for sure. I saw the last fight that you won where you're saying you want to go out with the win, and you kind of you're it looked like you were gonna tap him out, but then you just started striking the hell. You just started uppercutting them, and then they called it, and I was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
you
That's really
know,
cool.
my wife you know, I was 43 in my last fight. I'm 53 now. So in 2015, I had my last fight, and I fought a 23-year-old kid, tough kid. You know,
Mm.
but I really did want to go out with a win. I had two losses prior to that, tough losses where I lost in the later rounds. And I was just, I really wanted to go out with a win. So I really trained hard for that fight. And my wife said, she said, win or lose, you know, you need to be done. You're 43 years old. You know, you can't be taking these punches for the rest of your life. You know, just get in there, do your thing, get it over with, and then retire from MMA. And that's what I did. I was able to get the knockout in the first round. Really happy for that. And it was a show that was dedicated to the military, so it meant a lot to me. And you know, that's it. I hung up my gloves. I still do MMA 3 to 4 times a week. I mean, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 3 to 4 times a week. But no more MMA getting in the cage for me, man. I'm too old.
Yeah, I was hearing your workout routine. You wake up really early, right? And I was like, man, that's intense, man. I'm waking up around 6:30 and I'm dying.
I try to get up,
And I
yeah,
could
I
have
try to get up about 4:30 in the morning, start my workouts. You know, even being an older guy, you know, it's about setting a pace for yourself and getting kind of into a groove, you know, being disciplined. You know, you know, I won't say I'm the best at eating all the best stuff, man. I am, you know, I'm Italian guy. I love my carbs. I love my pasta. You know, I definitely love my snacks. but I do work out. Like I continue to work out hard, even in my 50s, take vitamins. I'm on creatine continuously, trying to do the right thing, so I stay, pretty healthy into my 50s and 60s.
Oh man, well you're out there in Colorado, bro, so you're good. I was gonna say, since you're in the Air Force, you used to live where I'm from, because I'm from San
Okay.
Antonio. So yeah, so you know how it is out here, man. Once it's already getting like Hell's Gates right now. The weather out here is just you can it's hard to like do any walks or any hikes or anything. It's like 105 degrees and it's terrible humidity. Um, and also, since you lived here, you know the breakfast tacos are amazing
They
here. So
are. Yeah, I
how long
actually worked out there for ICE last in 2018. I lived over across from the
oh,
museum, at the Riverwalk Apartments right there. I was there for a year as a deputy chief of staff for Joint Task Force West. So I actually lived in San Antonio recently. So I was in a suit and tie most of those days, and even in the summer,
ooh,
and it was horrible, man. You step outside in a suit and tie in San Antonio, you are drenched in like 10 seconds.
it's brutal out here, man. And yeah, it's hard to stay in shape, man, with this Mexican food. Luckily for me, my wife, because I just moved back from Japan like 5 years ago now, 5.5 years ago, and my wife's from Japan, so I eat pretty
Good, good.
healthy. Even though I don't look it, but I eat a little more healthy now. But before I left, I used to just eat Mexican food out here all the time, and it was terrible for your health. That's why half the population here is diabetic. It's really bad. How did you end up with ICE? Did you work as a cop at first and then get your way up there, or how did
So
that go?
in the Air Force, I was security forces. I was security police in the Air Force, and actually getting out of the Air Force, I wanted to be a firefighter. So really young, right out of high school, I had gone into the fire academy on Long Island as a volunteer firefighter. So right before I joined the military, I actually graduated from the fire academy. So getting out of the military, I wanted to be a firefighter. Just couldn't get hired. I had the police background in the military, so I applied for a federal agent job in downtown Manhattan, working on the first World Trade Center bombing trial when they bombed the garage at the World Trade
Yeah.
Center. Got that job with Federal Protective Service, and I worked that for 3 years. Worked that trial and the Oklahoma City bombing trial, and then I was able to transfer over to
Wow.
INS in 1998, and then from there my career went through INS and then ICE.
So you got to see Timothy McVeigh?
I did. I did. So I worked the courtroom. I actually provided protection for one of the attorneys for uh, McVeigh's one of McVeigh's attorneys and Nichols' attorney. Yeah. So yeah, I worked both those trials, both McVeigh's trial and Nichols' trial. And then right after Nichols'
Hmm.
trial was over, that's when I transferred over to INS.
Yeah, that first bombing, what was it, like 1993-ish, I believe?
Yes. Yeah. The first bombing at
Yeah.
the garages, the World Trade Center was 1993. Yep.
Mm. And did he have any kind of like just a cold look to him, McVeigh, or
Oh, yeah,
just
the
a
Oklahoma
regular
City bombing trial
guy?
for him. Yeah, that was also. I'm trying to think when the Oklahoma. I think the Oklahoma City bombing trial was 96. I think. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it
was
was.
96, and
Yeah, it
the
was.
Empire and the Twin Towers garage was 93. So yeah, 96. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. McVeigh, man, just cold stare, just didn't seem
Mm.
like he was there most of the time. Definitely, I mean, the guy definitely had some issues, for what he did. I mean, he killed many people, and he was executed in the 2000s, so he's no longer on Earth, but it was definitely a really weird trial. I mean, so much media. It was huge with media. We had this media pool, and Geraldo Rivera, all these media people coming out. Fox News was pretty much in its infancy still back then. So we had all the newer Fox News hosts that were coming in, and movie stars were showing up to sit in the gallery to watch the trial. Pauly Shore even showed up one day because he was filming some movie
Wow.
where he was on a jury or something, and he wanted
Oh,
to kind of
Jury
get an
Duty.
idea. Yeah, jury duty. That's it. Yeah,
Jury
he
Duty.
was
Yeah, I
filming
remember that movie.
that movie. So he actually came. He came and watched the Oklahoma City bombing trial. So Yeah, I mean, it was just a circus, that trial.
Wow, yeah. Or I mean, it's always sad, but the saddest part, man, I think it was the second floor was like a nursery, so all those
Yeah,
kids,
yeah.
man, that was terrible. Um, and yeah, I've read his manifesto. Have you ever read his manifesto?
I did many years ago. I did, yeah.
But he's talking about basically technology taking over and basically what we're in today, which is pretty wild. I know a lot of people were reading the Bin Laden manifesto a while back. It was a TikTok trend, and it's like really you're siding with with this horrible person. Now the
Yeah,
McVeigh, he was a smart guy. You know, he was a brilliant man, but he just lost his way, of course. And I'm not promoting his thing or anything that he did. Kind of like it came to fruition what he was kind of scared of. You know.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, what people have to realize is, evil people aren't necessarily dumb people.
Yeah.
People who do evil things, it doesn't mean that they have no, no reasoning about them. Their reasoning is just off, or something has affected them in their life that's made them rebel against something, and it doesn't mean that they're stupid. And that's something that we have to realize, because we have to look out for those things. Like, you can't assume that evil people are dumb, because they're going to do things that are going to affect society. And that, I mean, that's what their aim is. Their aim is to make a name for themselves and affect society. So you have to be cognizant of how they can put these plans together, and the types of things that they can do. Because people who are smart can be scary, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, it's like right now with Trump, right? When he talks about Putin being the smart man, when he talks about Xi Jinping being a smart man, they're like, "Oh my God, he's a puppet. He's a Putin puppet." And it's like, what is he supposed to say? He's an idiot. He's a leader of a country. I mean, obviously he knows his stuff. I remember when I was watching the Tucker Carlson interview with him. He's a smart guy. He knows his stuff. I mean, he was rambling about stuff that like he wasn't answering any questions. It's
Right.
like, hey, why did you invade Ukraine? Let me tell you the history of Russia. You know, it's like, what are you talking about? But he's not a stupid man.
No,
And
no.
yeah, people automatically say if somebody's smart, it's like, oh, you're condoning what they did. It's like, no, I'm just telling you, he's a smart person, and most of these criminals are. That's why they're successful in what they did, you know. And yeah, they're just evil as hell. And just going on that, like I wanted to talk about your time in ICE, man, because I don't know about you, but I feel like this is a fight between good and evil at this point. All the stuff going on. I did hear you did get to testify in Congress.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible, like to put on your resume. How did you feel about testifying in Congress? And were you nervous? I mean, what did you do the night before? How did that go? I would have been a
So
wreck.
yeah, look, I always admit it when I'm nervous and I'm afraid of things, because I don't like to put this thing out there and tell them, oh no, I wasn't scared. I always tell people, no, man, I was nervous the first time I testified to Congress, and I've testified 3 times to Congress now. So I testified in 2023, I testified this last January, and I testified last month, and it hasn't gotten easier any of those times. Even the last time, I was still up the whole night before, nervous as heck, because I'm going over scenarios in my head on what they potentially may ask me. So if you go into situations like that and you're a subject matter expert, you're gonna second guess yourself on, do I have the knowledge in my head? Do I know what I'm talking about? What if they ask me this? How would I respond? Maybe I need to read up on some numbers again, or the last time I went, the third time, I was a little bit more comfortable, where I was like, hey, John, you've done this for 20 something years. You've been in those situations. You were an operational boots on the ground type guy. You understand immigration law. Just go in there and be a little more comfortable. I was still nervous, but I was a little bit more comfortable going in and just trying to be myself and answer the questions that they were asking.
I got you. Yeah, I used to be a teacher, so I know that first year was brutal. And I did hear you were a sub at one point, so you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. Man, my first year, the first day was terrible, and then little by little, you just get so used to it. By the time you're in your third, fourth year, you're just like, ah, man, let's just go in here and do this. You just go right in there. It's
Well,
kind of
I
like second
think
nature.
I think you're extremely brave, because I lasted 6 sessions as a sub, 6 times. Okay, and I was teaching elementary school, man.
Oh
And
no, I couldn't
I
do
just,
that.
look, I love kids. I have 2 kids of my own, but being in a classroom with, it was like first graders to sixth graders that I was teaching. I just could not deal with the chaos that was in the, I'm a guy who likes control. Like things have to be a certain way. And I couldn't deal with that. And I have such respect for teachers who go in and day out and are able to get things taught amid that tornado of kids that's going on in that classroom. So much respect to you and every teacher that does it day after day. Because man, 6 times and I was done.
It's a nest show, bro. It's a nest show. I'm gonna be honest. The worst was middle school, man. I taught middle school for a while, like for 3 years. Oh
Mhm.
my god, that pubescent age, it was a battle, bro. Every day, I felt like I was a prison guard. Like I almost had to get my
Imagine.
shank ready. Like these kids were out of control. And then I did high school most of my career. When I was doing that, and yeah, it's intense, man. Especially nowadays with the phones and everything. You got parents calling these kids. You got all kinds of stuff. Like sometimes I would like literally ask the kid like, "Hey, you got to get off your phone here in class." And like, it's my mom, and I'm like, "It's not your mom." And I get the phone. Oh yeah, I'm trying to talk to my son, and I'm like, "Man, we're in class. Like, can you call him later? Or I need to know where the goddamn remote's at." And I'm like, "Are you serious right now?" Like,
Oh
okay,
man.
man. Obviously, like, go talk outside, man, and go do it. And a lot of times it's the parents too, man. They're worse than the kids, and it was yeah, it's a brutal job, man. But yeah, so that testifying in Congress, I did see the one where you're talking about the DNA stuff. Can you explain that?
So where I talked about the DNA being stopped at the border, that was in 2023, July, or yeah, July 2023. And I'm speaking with Congressman Wesley Hunt, who's a great guy out of Texas, former Army officer, Black Hawk helicopter pilot. And he asked me directly if the Biden administration had stopped DNA testing at the border. And I explained to him that that they stopped DNA testing. And what we were doing as ICE is when we would have a single adult male come in with a child, we would DNA test them to make sure that that adult male had a familial relationship with that child, that the DNA match, that was definitely that child's father, because we have a lot of child sex trafficking and human smuggling and other things that are going on at the border. And you should want to be able to tell if a child actually belongs to the adult that they're sneaking in with. So they stopped the DNA testing. And what we found out is that children were getting recycled down at the border. These adult males were sneaking in with these children. And what was happening at the time is the Biden administration was allowing these males to then go to a family, like the kind of detention center. It's not even really a detention center, but they were allowing them to go in with the child because they were a family unit and they didn't have real detention to put this person in. So they'd allow them to just go into the interior of the United States. They go to this familial detention center for a day or two, and then they'd be released into the United States. And then they were taking those kids and they were putting them back on a plane with another person from the smuggling organization who was taking them back into Mexico, taking that kid, giving that kid to another adult male to be snuck across the border so these adult males could get snuck into the interior of the United States. Who knows what was happening to those kids on the way up? We don't know who these males were. And I mean, they're not good people, a lot of them. And we arrested one here in Denver as he was leaving DIA, the Denver International Airport, and he had a conviction from within the United States for a child sex assault on a different child than the child that he had come back into the U.S. with. So yeah, I mean, the situation was pretty bad. There were a lot of kids that are missing right now that were snuck across the border. The United States has no idea where they are, and the Biden administration stopped the DNA testing at the border.
It was the biggest child this smuggling or human smuggling operation ever the last 4 years, bro. Um, I live, like I said, I live in San Antonio, man. So I live not too far from the detention center here. Since you're familiar, I don't know if you know, like San Pedro area by North Star Mall.
Mhm.
That's where it's at, the old CPS building. And it was like a third world country, man. And I remember one time because I had heard this on X, and I went to one of the hotels and asked for a room, and they were like, "This," because I wanted to actually see, like, is this true? Like, they just bought out the rooms? Yeah, the hotel, and it was a bunch of like cartel people, and you would see girls out there. Who knows? like anything about the situation, but they were dealing drugs out of there. I have some people that I talk to that are police officers, sheriffs, and all that kind of stuff, selling drugs, selling girls, all kinds of stuff that were going on out there. I had a couple of neighbors that were always talking about some of these migrants chasing them, running after them, trying to harass them. Like, what's going on?
It was a bad policy by the Biden administration. So they got with a contractor and they paid hundreds of millions of dollars for these contractors to rent out these hotels and put these migrants into these hotels. The problem is, 99% of these migrants were not vetted on their way in, or very, very lightly vetted. So they were simply run against criminal background checks here in the United States, which is nothing if you're coming from another country and you've never been to the US and committed a crime in the US. So many of these criminal histories were coming up negative, but that didn't mean that the person that we had just let in hadn't committed murders in another country or done other things. So they were letting these people in. And, later on down the road, we were finding out through Interpol, because what happens is when we get that information initially and they're put into our system, it doesn't automatically hit off Interpol right away. It has to go through this system. Interpol may pick up a hit, or they see a flag in the system on something. They start investigating, and it could take weeks or months for Interpol to send back a hit to the United States saying, hey, this person's wanted in Argentina for a double homicide. So by that time, these people already led into the United States, and they'd been in the US for months by that time. So thousands of young men were let in like that had criminal histories in Venezuela, other countries, Brazil, and we weren't finding out till weeks or months down the line that they were wanted in other countries for big crimes.
That's terrible, man. So I just for people that don't know, the DNA thing, who implemented that DNA thing, and is it only for single fathers, for single men? I mean,
No,
coming in?
it was for women as well, because women can be smugglers just like men
Yeah.
can. So it was for family units, and it was a rapid DNA test. So it was a mouth swab. We had a machine, so we could do this rapid DNA and find out within hours if there was a DNA match. So it was a pretty quick system. You didn't have to do a blood draw for it. And President Trump was the one who had originally implemented it in his first term. Because again, even during Trump's administration, we were seeing these things go on. And hey, Trump had smuggling coming across the border. I mean, even now, even as much as he's shut down the border, there's still smuggling going on. The cartels are going to continue to smuggle because it creates profit for them. So they will dig tunnels underneath the border. They will figure out ways to get people across. Trump has stopped it a lot. It's 92% down from when Biden was in office. But President Trump is still trying to figure out ways to get that to zero. And he was doing that in his last administration by trying to figure out different things that he could do to combat the crime that was coming across. And it's just crazy when the Biden administration got in, what they did to this country. Because the Biden administration, Secretary Mayorkas used to say, even in front of Congress, when Mayorkas went in front of Congress, there's nothing we can do. We need to change immigration law because we can't stop 1,000 people, 6,000 people. At the height of it, Biden had 6,000 people coming across a day. Today, Trump has about 200 coming across the border because they've shut it down so much. Biden had 6,000 a day coming across, and they tried to say they couldn't do anything about it unless they changed the immigration law. And we see that that's a lie. So we see that the Biden administration allowed this to happen, allowed this chaos to happen. And it's unbelievable when you look at it, what they caused to happen in this country with allowing all these criminals and this chaos to come in. But, we have a new administration now, so hopefully we can clean it up.
Yeah, and then they try to frame it as we try to have an immigration bill. That immigration bill was crap. Everybody knew it. Anybody that pays attention knew it. It was just pure BS.
It was horrible. A Republican, Langsberg, got on with that, and they tried to say it was bipartisan. No, it wasn't.
It was a rhino.
Yeah. And if you looked at what was in that bill, it was horrible. It gave more money to NGOs, and it gave more money to processing. This is not what we want. We didn't want to process people to come in, and we didn't want to give more money to non-governmental organizations to make themselves millionaires. What we needed was more detention beds, more ICE officers, more Border Patrol agents, and we needed to enforce the laws that were on the border. And that bill didn't have anything in it. The only thing that was good in that whole bill was some of the stuff they had on fentanyl. But they could have created a different bill and just put that fentanyl bill across the line if they really cared about it, to make sure that we had the money to combat fentanyl, but they didn't do that.
Didn't they also they would like deputize the officers as well so they could like get them in faster? And it was like the cap was like 6,000 people, and then they would stop, which is ridiculous. Like, yeah, we're just gonna let 6,000 people a day. It's like, bro,
when you look at today and you see that at the border, I think I looked at the stats. So this week, when I looked earlier this week, was 242 arrests earlier this week that they made at the southern border. And Biden was saying that we can't, 6,000 is what we're going to have coming across. Trump's already got it down to 242 a day. Biden was still going to let in 6,000 a day before he did anything.
Trump proved that we don't need Congress. We just need a competent president.
Enforce the law. Absolutely.
Yes. And I did see, which is a crazy statistic that a lot of people don't even know. So fentanyl, we've lost more people to fentanyl than we lost the entirety of the Vietnam War, which is, I mean, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And I saw that you did say, I believe it was 15, what was it? 15 million fentanyl pills were collected. I don't know what year that would have been, because I think you said it was 2023 when you did that. So it's 2022.
So like I was in a documentary. One of my friends shot a documentary. I'm friends with this guy, Stephen Tubbs. He used to work for ABC News. He was a radio talk show host for many years. Great guy. He currently works for the DEA right now as PIO for the DEA. He's a public relations officer for them. But last year he shot a documentary called Devastated, how fentanyl had destroyed Colorado. And if your listeners are out there, look it up. It's on YouTube. It is emotional. It talks about what fentanyl has done, how fentanyl's coming into the country. Stefan did a great job on this documentary, and I'm in it briefly. Fentanyl is killing a lot of people. And look, those byproducts of fentanyl are coming in from China. They're going to the cartel. The cartel's putting them together, and the cartel's making billions of dollars off of this misery that it's causing to the United States. And when you look at it and you see that 100,000 people a year are dying of opioid overdoses, including fentanyl, about 70,000 a year of that are from fentanyl overdoses, with about 100,000 in totality from all the opioid overdoses. 100,000 people a year. That's like a football stadium, like a huge football stadium a year of people dying. If it was a terrorist organization coming in and poisoning and killing a whole football stadium full of people, would we not go to war with whatever country was sending those terrorists here to kill 100,000 of our people? That's why President Trump has said that the cartels are foreign terrorist organizations. He's listed TDA as a foreign terrorist organization. He's listed the Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations because they are causing terrorism in the United States by what they're doing.
I mean, we had a whole war on terrorism in 2001 because they killed 3,000 people in 9/11. 100,000 people. I mean, there should be a lot more. Yes, and there should be a lot more attention put on there. The one thing that's scary about fentanyl is because, you know, when I was younger, I was in trouble a lot. I got in like serious trouble here and there. Constantly, I was abusing a lot of substances and all that kind of stuff. And the thing that's sad is a lot of these kids, they think like, hey, I'm gonna get a Molly and go party with my friends. And I could have been that kid, I don't want to, I'm not trying to die or do some fentanyl or do something crazy. I just want to, have a good trip, have fun with my friends. I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying what I used to do. And just saying like what a lot of these kids are doing. They think they're taking the Molly pill. They don't wake up and they lost their life. And then people are saying, well, they shouldn't have been doing drugs. I get that. Yeah. I totally get that. But still, that doesn't take away the fact that these kids were not trying. They didn't know what they were taking. And just to say that about a child, like, I get they shouldn't be doing drugs, but that's the world we live in. And to say like just to write him off like that, where he shouldn't have been doing any drugs in the first place, like, dude, I think you're kind of scumbag in that kind of way to say something about that. Something like that about a child and or a teenager or whatever that may be. Like I said, I taught high school. They were talking about fentanyl use in the restrooms and stuff like that, which is crazy because a lot of kids didn't even know they were taking it. So that's a big issue. A lot of people really need to
Yeah,
focus
I
on for
actually
sure.
went in 2023 and marched in DC with a whole bunch of parents that lost their children to fentanyl. And me and one of my business partners went down there. We walked with those parents from the Washington Monument all the way to the White House to try to get Biden to come out and address the parents, and he refused to come out and address these parents. And I was talking to a lot of these parents, while we're walking, to the White House, and we're marching. And a lot of them had lost their kids like that. Their kids were in college. They thought they were taking a Xanax or a Ritalin. They were, getting some of these drugs, to study for exams, and then dying, overdosing, not knowing what they were getting. They were getting some of this stuff off the dark web. And very, very unfortunate. We were marching with these parents, and I have two kids, man, and seeing these parents talk about their kids, they had pictures of their kids, on T-shirts and stuff, and it was really emotional, man. And walking to the White House and just trying to get the Biden administration to come out and talk to these parents, and they refused to come out. And even look, the mainstream media, we had 700 parents march to the White House from the Washington Monument. We had put up thousands of photos of these kids who had lost their lives, and no one from the Biden administration came out, and no one from the mainstream media came out and did a report on it. It was then that I really started to realize that, we have a lot going on in this country that a lot of people don't realize. And the reason that they don't realize about it is because information isn't as free flowing as we think it is. It's not out there unless you're really looking for it. And that's why, like, platforms like X, I'm pretty active on X, because I look at it as a free flow of information that's out there, that you can go on X and you can, if you want to dive down a rabbit hole on X, you can get down some pretty broad rabbit holes on X. But hey, the
For sure.
information's out there, and it's for you to research as much as you can to figure out exactly what the truth is.
Definitely. That's why I love the alternative media podcasts and stuff. Like you get Joe Rogan, you get Pat Bet David, Mike Benz is just doing an incredible job exposing USAID. It's good to see people actually kind of taking it upon themselves and releasing this information. X, I was just talking about this yesterday. It's crazy to think about it. Elon never bought X. We would have no platform to do anything in, like, because they would have everything. And Mark Zuckerberg would, I mean, he's still, you know, he's just grifting. And he would have definitely went with Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris would have really took it upon herself. She's even said we need to regulate all these social media platforms and all that. Basically saying, hey, we need them to do what our bidding. She's not really trying to regulate them in any way, just kind of have them do what she says. So I totally understand that. I do want to get to, I had saw you were talking about when you take these walks, you would see birth control and IEDs on the floor. Can you explain
Yeah,
those
so
things?
that's when you go to the border, and you're I was out there with a former border patrol agent. He's my consulting partner in my consulting firm, and he knows how to cut sign. It's something that the border patrol's taught, how to follow trails and follow certain things that they're seeing on those trails. So we were actually out there looking for illegals that had come over. We were shooting some film, helping out with a radio station that was trying to put a documentary together. So we're out there, and we're running into birth control. We're running into condoms all over the place, and women that are coming across will take birth control. They have the day after pill. They have all this because they're getting raped. And they know that.
Mhm.
So they put condoms in their pockets. They are trying to do what they can, to try to keep themselves, from being infected. But these women are getting raped that are coming over. It's the things that are happening to women and children that were getting smuggled across the border are nightmarish. And you know it, I've seen a lot of pictures and video and things in my time with ICE, that I've had to look at, for investigative purposes and stuff. And, those are images that you're never going to get out of your head. I've seen a lot of dead
Mm.
bodies out in the desert. Went down there and talked to a sheriff down there in Falfurrias County, down in Texas, Sheriff Benny. And he has a book, 190 bodies from the 1 year that I went out there to visit him, of all the bodies that he was finding in the desert, from these illegal crossers that were being left by their smugglers in the desert. So there's a lot of sign out there, and you learn how to read the sign, and that's what these Border Patrol agents do. They look for certain things, and they know certain things are going on by the kind of things that they find in the desert.
And the ID thing, you said they would throw their IDs because they're trying to get rid of
Yeah,
all
yeah.
traces of their
So
record.
with the vetting, the horrible vetting that Biden was doing, so they would
Vetting.
lose their ID before they would be encountered by Border Patrol. They'd either get rid of it on the other side of the wall, or bury it, or throw it in some bushes. So they'd have no identification when the Border Patrol came upon them. So they could give any kind of date of birth, they could give any name. That's what they were given to the Border Patrol. So when a Border Patrol agent encounters an illegal alien that's crossed the border and they've got no ID, and the Border Patrol agent sits them down to process them, and their name, okay, well, what's your name? Juan Castro. When were you born? January 1st, 1985. No one knows if any of that is true. This is just what they're telling the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol is putting it into the system because there's nothing to check that on. And this is for everyone that was coming across. So me and my business partner, and I talk about this in my book, De-Iced, we're in the desert. We're in Arizona. We're in Oregon Pipe National Monument. We go in there. My partner's cutting trail. We're looking for groups that have crossed illegally. And we run into this group of 120 something Africans, not Mexicans, not Guatemalans, not Hondurans, guys from Africa. They were from the Sudan. They were from Mauritania. They were from Senegal. And we run into these guys, and none of them had IDs. None of them had passports. They had all dumped all of their stuff. They were all military-aged men from Africa that the Biden administration simply let in. Simply let in because they didn't want to deal with detention space, nothing. They just let them into the U.S. And this was happening every single day during the Biden administration.
It's just like the Haitians that they put in that
Yeah.
what is it, Ohio town. Dude, I'm under. I mean, I guess I'm a hardcore conservative, brother. Because I'm gonna be honest. I think if you have no ID, no identification, we don't know who the hell you are. You don't get in. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just like if in my house and somebody just shows up and they don't have anything, I don't know who they are. I'm not gonna let them in my house. No. I'm under that impression. I know you said that you have to have like a humanitarian heart when you
Yeah.
do those things, but I don't know. For me, it's kind of like we can't identify who you are, man. I'm sorry, and it's not that I want to be mean. I do have a heart for people that are doing things the right way. I had to go through
Right.
USCIS myself for my wife. Like I told you, she's from Japan. It was a 2 year deal, and that's from me getting it expedited for writing Ted Cruz. And that was me and my wife been married for like 4 years in Japan, had a kid, and then we're coming back home.
So
We're
know
coming
what
back
the
over here,
process
and
is.
I know
Yeah.
the process. I know the process is it's hard. It's a grueling process. I get that, but it pisses you off that much more when
Yeah.
you go through it, and then these people just come in and get free stuff. So
Do
that's one
say
thing.
that you have to have a humanitarian heart. Like, look, I believe in legal immigration. I believe we should have legal immigration. But when I say you have to have a humanitarian heart, I agree with you on this issue. Like, look, I have a humanitarian heart when I'm out in the desert and I come across a little kid that's there with his mother who's dying
Yeah.
of thirst because the smugglers sent them across the border wall so that a border patrol would find them first and have to deal with them so the drug smugglers could sneak across somewhere else. So, having a humanitarian heart and trying to deal with those people and get them medical attention and trying to save lives, that's first and foremost. But you are correct in
Mhm.
saying that, look, if you don't have ID, you're not really claiming asylum, man. You're lying. Like, if you really
Mm-mm.
wanted to claim asylum, you would have taken your ID, gone to a port of entry, and tried to add a port of entry. You can not even try. You go to the port of entry with your ID and you ask for asylum with your ID in hand so that we can properly vet you and then allow you into the country, at least better vetted than these guys were coming in with no ID, and then go through a process lawfully through the port of entry where we can do a lot better with vetting you. It's very hard for the Border Patrol to do any kind of vetting when they got 6,000 people a day crossing the border and the Biden administration is telling them, get them through. Nothing was happening, and these were not real asylees. Let me be honest here. Most of the asylees that came in during the Biden administration, we're looking at probably 85% of the asylum claims were fraudulent, were false. And we're going to be dealing with that for years to come unless Trump can do what he says he's going to do and get rid of these people soon.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I'm the same way, man. I can't just let somebody just die in front of me like that. Definitely help them out. Yes. And also, people don't understand when you claim asylum, you got to go to the country that's neighboring,
Yes,
a neighboring
you're
country
correct.
first. You don't just go from like Africa to United States. We had economic
Yes.
refugees. That's what we had. It was a bunch of people thinking, yeah, we're gonna come over here, we're gonna get free shit, and we're gonna just take advantage of the American empathy.
Yep.
That's what's going on. Like our empathy's too much at this point where we're destroying
No,
ourselves.
you're entirely right, and it's even a little worse than that because some of the guys from Africa, I was finding documentation in the desert where these guys from Africa had dropped their IDs, had dropped Brazilian cards where they had been granted asylum in Brazil. And they dropped those cards in the desert, and we were finding them where we didn't know who the guys were, but we were finding the documentation there that they had come from Africa, had been reestablished in Brazil. And some of these dates were 2 years ago from when we were finding them. So they had been in Brazil for almost 2 years. And then they came up across the border, got rid of that ID, and tried to say that they had just come from Africa and were claiming asylum in the US. Was bullcrap. They'd already reestablished themselves in another country, had set up asylum. That's what I'm saying. A lot of these asylum claims, we're going to find out that a lot of them, upwards of 85% or more, were fraudulent. And, like you said, they came here for economic reasons, not really to get away from bad conditions in their country.
Yes, like I feel sorry for you that you're from a poor country. I feel privileged that I'm from this country. I get that. But that doesn't give you a right to just go in any other country. I've been to about 20 countries in my life. I've lived in about 3 or 4. And you can't do this anywhere but here. This is the stupidest, like, we become the stupidest place, the laughing stock of the world because we're just like, yeah, come in. And I mean, I know Europe's doing it too. They're destroying themselves. It's just sad to see. But yeah, just going on that, man. So you're from Colorado. What the hell are y'all doing?
We lost
Man,
Colorado.
so
we
we
lost
actually
Colorado.
y'all might as well be California. We're about to cut y'all off, man. We're just gonna cut y'all off. Hey, y'all gotta go.
I ran for Congress here last cycle, ran against Jason Crow, lost by a lot. I ran in a Democrat district, knew I would, in the back, look, I'm a fighter, man. Like in the back of my head, I'm like, there's always that chance of a knockout, right? No, I got my butt kicked. But I was happy I ran because I was able to have a voice, and I was able to put out the message that I needed to put out because I was running. And to your point with Colorado is a mess right now because of Democrats. And I will say that up and down. The Democrats took over the state house here years ago, about a decade ago. They have not relinquished it, and they have destroyed this state. Their policies have destroyed this state. Their sanctuary policies with immigration, their drug policies. I get the whole marijuana thing and everything like that, but they want open air needle markets. All this stuff that they want is just out of control. And it's just a bad situation here. And unless we can win some conservative seats in the state house, it's going to continue to be bad here in Colorado.
So tell me about that open air needle. What is
So they have where drug users are allowed to shoot up, and they have these certain areas where they can go for needles, and it's safe spaces for them so they can shoot up. It's a mess. It's a mess. Look, you should be trying to get them off of drugs, not giving them new needles and giving them safe spaces where law enforcement can't mess with them. Because they're shooting fentanyl between their toes. It's ridiculous. And, the Democrats continue to do this. They have this new sentencing where they're letting criminals out way early, or they're not putting them in jail at all. They don't believe in incarceration, the Democrats here in Colorado. There's so much that they're doing that's just wrong, that has just destroyed this state. And like I said, unless we can take back the state house, which is going to be really hard because we have more Democrats moving here. The worse it gets with the liberals, more liberals move here because they like those policies, and it just gets worse for the conservatives that are here.
How are y'all's gun laws there? Are you able to own a gun
No.
at least?
It's gotten so bad. Like, this used to be the best state for guns. Magpul used to be here. Magpul left and went to Wyoming. The gun laws here have gotten horrible because of the Democrats. So the Democrats are right now trying to ban anything that's a long gun with a removable magazine. Everything, every single one. So we're dealing with that. Yeah, we're dealing with that right now. They want to make it that every person that buys a gun has to go through a training course before you can own the gun. I mean, it's just ridiculous what they're trying to do. It's unconstitutional. It's against the Second Amendment. I'm going to continue to fight against that. We've got a lot of patriots here who fight every single day. And then we just have to keep fighting, man, and then sue the hell out of them if they do pass these laws, because these are unconstitutional laws.
Yeah, I went on a podcast a while back, the Hispanic Patriot podcast. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They're
Yeah,
from
I've actually been on that. I've been on that podcast. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I was on there a while back, and they were pretty cool guys, and they were really conservative. And one of them was from San Antonio, actually. So, yeah, and it was pretty interesting. They were talking about the situation. I do want to talk about this because it hits home here as well. We had what is it? Apartment raids in Tren de Agua. We had a bunch of those. We were not a bunch, but not as much as y'all. But we were having those raids in apartments,
Yep.
getting those people out of there. I know Texas is a little different, and just like over there in Colorado, man, we had a lot of Californians move here a while back. I don't even remember when it was, but it wasn't that long ago. They were trying to get rid of the castle law here, and I don't know if you know what the castle law basically is. Somebody comes in your house, yeah, you could shoot them and kill them. And people were like outraged, like what? Like in Texas, it's weird. Like I wouldn't even tell my students when I was teaching, like you know what the castle law is, right? And I said, in California and other states, you can't do that. And they look at you like, why can't you do that? They're in your home. You could kill them. Like that's the mentality in Texas, right? Like, of course, yeah, you can kill them. Like they're in your home. Like what the fuck? Oh, sorry, but they're just they're just like
It is a WTF moment, man. It's a WTF moment for sure.
Yeah. So I want to know what's some of the worst stories you heard from that gang, that Venezuelan gang, and I know how are y'all combating that in any way?
Yeah, so I was very involved in the Tren de Aragua situation with the apartments here. So there's a Aurora City Councilwoman that I'm very good friends with, Danielle Jurinsky. She got involved with the Dallas Street apartments that Tren de Aragua absolutely took over. No matter what the Democrats say and the media says, that gang took that apartment complex over. It was a very low income apartment complex. The management had been threatened. They left the apartment complex, which allowed the gang to take it over, take over individual apartments, put their own locks on doors, charge rent, everything. They actually took it over. So there was one United States citizen family left in that apartment complex, and they didn't know how to get out. They They were a low income family, couldn't find a way out. They tried contacting a bunch of non-governmental organizations, charity organizations. The organizations would not help them. They were helping the illegal aliens and not helping the U.S. citizens. So they contacted Danielle, Councilwoman Jurinsky. She contacted me. She said, hey, John, I'm going in there to move this family out. I'm trying to get a bunch of guys together that I know carry guns. She knows I'm a retired federal agent. She goes, I know you carry all the time. I know you know how to handle yourself. And Danielle's former military too. She's very, very tough. So she goes, I need you, and I'm going to get a couple other guys together. So she got there's this retired Marine, this guy that's a former Army guy, myself. We went in there to the apartment complex. We moved that family out of there. It was a mess. The minute we got there, Danielle tries to go up the stairs, and the gang starts following her up the stairs. So we had actually called Aurora PD. Aurora PD had gotten there because an Aurora City Councilman woman was in the building. So Aurora PD came. The gang kind of scattered. We were able to move Cindy Romero and her husband Edward out of there. And Cindy and Edward were the ones who shot the now infamous video that I'm sure everyone's seen. It's gotten hundreds of millions of views of Tren de Aragua going up the stairs with the AR-15 and guns in their hands, of them hitting locks off of doors. That was all shot by Cindy and Edward. They had put 6 cameras on their apartment when they couldn't move out, and they had some unbelievable video of gunfights in the courtyard. Both their cars were shot up multiple times. A man was killed right in the courtyard. Actually, the video that you see that everyone's seen, within an hour of that video being shot, a man was murdered. They were actually looking for a guy. That's why they were going up and down the hallways. They found him later that night and murdered him in the courtyard there. So for the left to say, and especially my congressional opponent at the time, Jason Crow, he was saying, it was all a conservative conspiracy theory, that I was making stuff up. Man, it pisses me off that the left did that, and they left some United States citizens out to dry in that apartment complex. But it absolutely did happen. Over 19 Tren de Aragua gang members were arrested out of that apartment. They found people that had been tortured in there, people with their fingernails removed. A woman who was pregnant had been scalded by the gang. There was prostitution going on in there. Like I said, the murder that happened there. So, I mean, it absolutely did happen. They shut those apartment complexes down last month. So, things were getting a little bit better in that neighborhood. I went to a neighborhood watch meeting with people from that community a couple of nights ago. They say it's now much better, that the apartments were shut down. But for a little while, it was a really bad situation.
Just pure lawlessness.
Yes.
Man. And I remember, I think it was on, I don't know if it was CNN or MSNBC, where they were saying something. They were like, well, to be honest, it's only a few apartments or something. And I think JD Vance is like, one apartment is too many apartments.
Yeah. We don't allow that to happen in the United States, man. Yeah, one apartment's too many. And this was multiple apartments.
Yes. And that's, dude, I mean, I really want to know their mindset, because it doesn't make any sense to me. It's almost like a foreign language. Like, where in your mind do you think an open border is a good thing? Just letting people come in. I would love for them. Like, you're gonna have to leave your door open every day in your damn house, so you can tell me how that's a good idea, and I want you to see what happens. A lot of these people don't have to deal with the consequences. And sanctuary cities, San Antonio's a sanctuary city. Houston's the child sex trafficking capital of the world now. We have all this crap going on too. Fortunately, Texas is at least a conservative state, but we're in a liberal city. And I do want to look at one of your quotes, because I thought it was really good. You put, sanctuary cities, they shelter criminal aliens, accommodating and increasing crimes like drug trafficking, violent assaults, and human trafficking. And I do want to say, these policies that they have, they hurt the minority communities way more than they hurt anybody else, because we have to deal with it. Like us, the brown and black people are the ones that they're putting them in. They don't put these people in the rich neighborhoods. And I guarantee you, if they put that detention center in these rich people live, man, that thing would be out of there in 2 seconds. You know what I'm saying?
I actually put those statistics in the first time that I testified back in 2023. I actually talk about that, how initially, when these criminals come in from other countries, they prey on their own first. So they go into these communities. Like, if you have a Venezuelan community, these criminals from Venezuela are coming in and they're preying on good people from Venezuela. That's who their first victims are. Women in those communities become their first prostitution victims, their first sex trafficking victims. And then they grow that criminal enterprise from those neighborhoods that they go into that they're comfortable with. So they start with prostitution. Guys start to come into the neighborhood for prostitution. They make those guys, their clients for drugs. Then they start selling them firearms. Then they start branching out into other neighborhoods. And then you start hearing about it, like you said, when the rich homes start getting robbed, when the football players' homes start getting robbed, that's when you see it in the media, and people are like, whoa, what's going on? Meanwhile, the people in the poor neighborhoods have been dealing with this for months. People have been getting killed, robbed, raped, and you don't hear about it until it affects somebody that the media wants to write a story about.
That's exactly right. It's like the California fires recently. It's because they were hitting the rich people's houses that it had got so much publicity, and everybody's like, donate, please. Man, y'all can afford 10 houses compared to us. We can't even afford one at this point. People really need to get out of that mindset. It's like, oh, he looks like me. He has my best interest. Like, how they do with the politicians. Well, his name's Gonzalez. He's a beaner like I am. Yeah, he has my best interest. Like, shut up, dude. He could care less about you. It's all self-interest in that game. And also, just because somebody looks like you does not mean they have your interest in mind. And here,
Yeah, I care about United States citizens.
I totally agree with that. One of the things I did hear you talk about, and I thought it was pretty interesting, was you were involved in the Afghanistan refugee situation, right? Now,
Yeah.
one of the worst pullouts in our history. Just as, I mean, God, it was so embarrassing. I mean, we haven't been embarrassed like that since Vietnam. So what was that like? What did you see? And I did hear you say there were some people that you probably should not have let in.
Yeah. I don't. I was involved in it. I was brought into DC to help out with the withdrawal, and it was the worst situation that I could imagine. It's partly why I retired when I did. I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like how it was operated. I didn't like that we were bringing in all of these people. I mean, I was, because of the position that I was in, I was able to see a lot of what was going on at some of these areas that we were housing people throughout the United States that were coming over from Afghanistan. I saw the crimes that were being committed at these facilities, the rapes that were occurring, the crimes that were occurring. I know for a fact that a lot of the people that got on those planes were not, allies of the United States. This was supposed to be Operation Allies Welcome. We were supposed to be bringing over allies that had helped us in the Afghanistan war that we were in. But thousands, hundreds of thousands, well, not hundreds. We had 85,000 people come in. So thousands of people
That's
that
a lot.
came in were not vetted. We're not part of the military units that were helping the military. These were some people that should not have been allowed into the United States. And at one point in time, we had 12,000 walkaways from the facilities throughout the U.S. where they had left those facilities prior to them being fully vetted. And when I started to see that, that's when I knew that the president at the time, President Biden, was just did not have the country's best interests in mind. And these 12,000 people that walked away, where are they? Where are they today? And that's one of the questions that I constantly ask. I believe that there are still people missing that we initially brought over here that we have no idea where they are in the United States right now. None.
Oh man, I mean, even just on a massive scale, on just the people that crossed the southern border, for sure. Um, that is terrifying, man. That's a terrifying statistic. 12,000 people, nobody knows. And I was teaching during that time. When that whole thing went down, we did get some Afghani people, like students coming, and it was just the weirdest situation because that's the thing too. I know assimilation is such a bad word in today's world. It's like, bro, that's to me. It's if you're not going to assimilate to our culture, then you don't belong here. I understand you need to keep your culture. Like I love our culture. I love like what we do. We have fiesta. We have all these things, right? But we still assimilate to American culture. Like we still Americans. But the thing is, you're gonna come in here and you're just gonna just bring your Sharia, your other things that are just go against the Constitution and the way of life
Yeah.
that we believe in. Yeah, you shouldn't be here. And I used to have to talk to them because they can't look at you in the eye if you're a man. So I had like girls and they wouldn't look at me and they wouldn't talk to me because they weren't allowed to talk to me. So they would tell me where you need to teach them this and get them up to date. I'm like, bro, they don't look or talk to me. Like, what am I supposed to do? And it just left us all in this ugly situation. And it was just unfortunate, like a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, even when I was substituting, I had a lot of kids that were in the class that didn't speak English, and my Spanish is okay from having worked for ICE, but these were not Spanish kids that were speaking Spanish in these classes. They were speaking Pashtun, they were speaking different African dialects. I had Russian kids in there. I had kids from all over the world, and how as a teacher do you communicate with children that don't speak English at all? You don't speak any of those other languages. You send them off to their ESL training and they come back to the classroom and you're trying to teach the rest of the class. You're trying to like communicate with these other kids. And it's a mess for teachers trying to get information across when you can't communicate. And it doesn't serve our own kids that are in those classes very well because their level of the education that they're being taught is being brought down as you're trying to put your attention to other things that are happening in the classroom.
Yeah, everybody suffers, man. Everybody suffers, for sure. Did you like? Do you still do you lose sleep or have any nightmares from all the stuff that you saw during your time with ICE?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely, some things like I said, some videos, pictures, things that we had to look at, and some things that we did. I worked mostly fugitives. I wasn't with HSI, so I didn't do a lot of the child sex trafficking, the big investigations. I would be involved in arresting, but didn't really do the investigative part. The agents that deal with that, with the investigations into that, I can't even imagine how they sleep at night. Because for me, seeing evidence and seeing that other stuff was hard. They are cataloging that evidence. They're watching whole videos. They're doing this to make a case, and I don't even know how they do it. But I mean, I dealt with mostly violent criminals that we were hunting down as fugitives. Going into some of these homes that they were, these shooting galleries where people were shooting methamphetamine, and some of those homes were gross, man. Like, unbelievably disgusting. I like, to this day I can still smell some of the smells of those homes because of how bad they were. You have people with sores all over them because they're shooting up in all different spots, and they're just defecating all over the house. And yeah, it's even today I'll come across something and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
the sense just gets you, and you're like, man. So yeah, there's a lot of that, but I'm really proud of my career and the things that we did. We took a lot of, I was with, like, again, the fugitive units. I worked with U.S. Marshals a lot. We took a lot of violent criminals off the street, and I'm really happy about that.
that's good, man. I was just gonna ask you, did you see that documentary with James O'Keefe? What is it, Line in the Sand, and that movie as well, Sound of Freedom?
I saw Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom is a great movie. I didn't see the James O'Keefe line in the sand. I'll have to check that out.
Check that
But
out. They talk about some crazy stuff on there, like how they were basically being forced to send kids to places that they knew were hotbeds of sex trafficking for children, and they were just sending them over and over. I mean, the Biden, like, that's why I say, man, the Biden, Mayorkas, and all that, they gotta be indicted for that stuff, man. The amount of misery that they caused upon not only people here, but those people as well. Because yeah, you're giving them that green light. Go ahead and come, and everybody wants to make a better life for their kids. So I don't blame them for coming. Like, I don't blame them. Like, yeah, I would come too if I was in that kind of dire situation. And you cause all this misery. You cause people to get sex trafficked. You cause people to lose family members. You cause Americans to die. I mean, Lake and Rye. You have all kinds of people. I know Trump did that when in his speech where he named that what is it, animal sanctuary, off that little girl too that got
yeah,
raped by two Venezuelans, which is terrible.
yeah, yeah.
The amount of misery,
Jocelyn Hungary. Yeah.
yeah, the amount of misery that he caused to people is just like, can't even fathom all the stuff that he's done, and he gets to just
And it
walk
was
scot free.
purposeful. It was purposeful, man. I mean, they knew, the Biden administration knew what they were doing with
Yeah,
this. You cannot say that they didn't. Knowing what Trump has done in 3 months to shut the border down, and then watching what the Biden administration did, it was purposeful, purposeful. And I will say that till my dying day, man. The Biden administration knew what they were doing, and they did it on purpose.
well, anybody with two brain cells can then come with that conclusion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying you're a smart guy. I'm not saying you, but anybody just with their eyes open could come up with that conclusion. Now, I do want to ask you, because I know I don't want to waste too much of your time. I want to ask you about the Great Replacement. Do you think that was a correct theory that Tucker Carlson was kind of pushing out there?
Yeah, I don't prescribe as much of that to the Great Replacement. What I do, my look at it is, they were trying to replace, but they were trying to do it in a way that they could control congressional seats.
Yes, that's
So, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are very educated on this. We have 435 seats in Congress. There's what's called apportionment. It's based on population, based on the census and certain areas. When the population grows, you get an additional congressional seat. There can only be 435 seats at any given time. So some areas have to lose seats while other areas will gain seats. So my belief is that the Biden administration saw what was happening with people leaving New York and going to Florida, that Florida was going to gain more seats. They were looking and seeing in Texas that red areas in Texas were gaining more seats because people were leaving California. And they were watching this happen, and they're like, we're going to lose a lot of Democrat seats. We need to increase populations in these blue areas. So they sent these, they made sure that these illegals that came in went to these areas where they knew they were going to lose seats by apportionment. And they sent them up to Wisconsin. They sent them to New York. They sent them to Chicago. They sent them to California so that they would not lose those seats. New York's population in Manhattan jumped up so much that they will probably gain some seats if President Trump can't stop during the census us counting illegal aliens. And that's what he's trying to do. He tried to do it during his last administration. The Democrats shot it down, and they shot it down because they had this plan in place, and they knew when Biden came in that that's what they were going to do. The Democrats were hoping that they would beat Trump, because although they had slowed immigration down at the end of the Biden administration, I believe they did that on purpose just to try to win the race. But at the minute, if they had won, that would have gone away, and we would have seen the same thing happen that we saw during those 4 years. We would have had another 10 million illegals come in. The Democrats would have controlled through apportionment Congress, and we would have this blue liberal society, and the Republicans would not have been able to get back in control. Thank God President Trump won. Let's see what he can do with getting rid of illegal aliens being counted during the census, and let's get back to reality and get back to being a conservative country.
Definitely was strategic. I mean, it was all strategic. Elon Musk just came out the other day talking about how all these people are getting Social Security numbers and stuff like that. They're voting in local elections, they're voting in national elections, and local elections are more important, even though a lot of people don't pay attention to them. But yes, definitely was strategic. And I totally agree. I think we would have been lost as a country if Kamala Harris would have won. I think she would have just opened up the floodgates even more, and it would have just been even worse. I don't think we would survive another 4 years of that at all. The way I see the great replacement was, it wasn't really towards white people. They tried to make it a race issue. It wasn't towards white people. It was towards American people. They were trying to replace American people with third world country people. And on top of that, what they're going to do is get congressional seats, like you said, and we would just be one party country because they're the only ones that are going to say, we'll feed you, we'll clothe you, we'll do everything, and who are they going to be loyal to? Don't bite the hand that feeds you. And they live on this liberal plantation, all of us, and we just have Big Brother watching everything that we do, and we just get to this Orwellian dystopia, and that's what it would have been. To be honest, that's what I believe. I might not be right, but I believe that.
I said you're on it. You're on it, man. You're good to go.
That's where I've come up with. There's no other way to talk about like what they've done. I mean, it's that's what it was, man. It was definitely so they could get more and more people to vote for them, and then they were going to give them an easy pathway to citizenship for sure. I do want to show this because I thought it was really cool, man. I could imagine like what you were thinking in your head. I don't know, or maybe it's just me because I'm a nobody in this game. But you've been around a lot of stuff. But I saw this and I was like, dude, this is awesome. So I'm gonna share my screen real quick before you go, and I want to just get your take. Like, what were you thinking when this happened? Dude, this is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and watch it real quick. And this is President Trump giving you a shout out. So that's awesome, bro.
Also, we have congressional candidates who are really terrific people. They have my endorsement, Gabe Evans and Jeff Frank. A candidate for Congress and former ICE field office director who did a really good job for me, John Fabricatore. John Fabricatore. That's a hell of a name. But it worked. It worked because he did a great job.
All right, I need to know, bro. What was going on in your head when that happened? I would have been freaking like, what he said. He knows. Second is, have you met him before, and what kind of
So
person was he when you met him?
I had met him for the first time, and I grew up in New York, so I mean I followed President Trump. I followed Donald Trump since I could read the newspaper at 6 or 7 years old, right? So the first time I met him was actually there. So they brought me in the back because I was a congressional candidate. He comes out, he shakes my hand. I say, I'm John Fabricatore. I grew up in New York, sir. Watched you since I'm a kid. And he just starts talking to me like he's a friend. Like he's like, oh, where'd you grow up? This. So we're talking. I did not know he was going to give me a shout out. No one had told me that. They had thought about letting me speak at that, but time was cut short, so I wasn't able to speak. So I didn't know he was going to give me a shout out at all. And after speaking, I only spoke to him for maybe 5 minutes, but he was really warm. Really asked me some questions. We took a picture together. I go back out, sit in the audience. He comes out, he gives a speech, and he starts talking. And then he mentions my name, and I've got some friends sitting around me, and everyone just like looks at me like, the guy just President Trump just mentioned your name, and so it was a good situation. A lot of friends from New York, and a lot of my military friends from around the country. I started getting texts really quick in, and it was a good situation. He didn't have to call me out, and he had asked me about my work for ICE and what I'd done. And actually, I worked for Tom Homan, so I know Tom Homan had talked to President Trump about me, and Tom Homan's always been a really big advocate of mine, like really pushing, because he had actually hired me Tom Homan hired me as an assistant field office director, and then I went up the ranks to field office director. So I know Tom had mentioned me to Trump, so it was good to hear. I was stoked.
How is Tom Homan, bro? He seems intense. He just seems like. I mean, I love Tom Homan. I think
He is
a gangster, man.
exactly
He's
what
gangster
you
as hell.
see. That is not a show. He's a cop's cop. It's when they say like he falls out of central casting, like he's a character. That's how he is in real life. Like when you work for him, like that's him all day long, man. So it was a good environment when he was the boss for ICE, and having him as the border czar now is really cool.
Oh, dude, I love him, bro. I think he's great. Me and my friend are always joking. Like that's our man crush, and it's just we just like his demeanor. It's family.
When I worked for him, and this would have been like the mid 2000s, the guy was a monster in the gym. I mean, you're seeing an older guy now, but when even in his 40s, the guy was like crushing like 400 pounds, like on the bench press, like he was a monster. He worked out like all the time because we had a great gym at the ICE headquarters, and the guy could crush some weight, man. Like I was in decent shape pretty good shape back then, and Tom could move around some weight back in the day, for sure.
Damn, that's awesome. Yeah, because I have a friend. He was involved in a lot of the things that we read about in the history books since 2001, and he was telling me General Petraeus is a beast. He was like General Petraeus, bro. He goes, he would outlast anybody I know. He goes like one time he made him go for a run, and they were like, "Well, this old man ain't gonna do nothing," and he has like medical issues because he got shot, and he was saying, he goes, he got on there, he outran everybody, and he made us all look like chumps, and I was like, that's crazy. Like, I love those kind of backstories because gives you an insight on what kind of people they are. But that's really cool that he shot you out, and I do want to say, man, I hope you run again, brother. Never let that one time, like take you down, man. I'm sure you learned a lot, and I really would love for you to run again because that'll be awesome. And maybe even if you lose, we get a little closer, and then you keep going at it. The next census is what, 2030?
Yeah, the next census will be in 2030, so they'll start the count then, and hopefully before then we can get President Trump to pass some laws that we do not count illegal immigrants.
Yeah, that's
count
insane.
them, count them, so we know how many there are, but they can't be used for the congressional apportionment. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they should never be used. That's so stupid. Like, no, you're gonna use citizens, and that's it. Like, you're gonna get from, and then it doesn't even. It's such an oxymoron. Like, you're gonna count these people, but they supposedly they can't vote. So why even count them? This makes no sense. But anyways, brother, I really do appreciate because I don't want to waste too much of your time. I know it's getting kind of late where you're at. Dude, I hope we can have you on here again and talk some more about some other things going on. I will link Devastated on YouTube.
Cool.
I'll link it to on the thing. And what is it?
Yes.
De-Iced?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. De-Ice. Yeah. Great book. At least I think it's great. I wrote it. Yeah. So it's
little
very
biased,
short. It's
but I
only like
think it's good.
200 something pages. You can read it in 2 hours, but it really gives you a great overview of what happened during the Biden administration.
Okay, so it's all about the
Yep.
illegal immigration situation during the Biden, what is it, 2020,
Yep.
2024 era. That's awesome. And
I
when did you
retired in
retire, by the way?
2022.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yep.
so during Biden's like
I
tenure,
couldn't
whatever
handle
you
it.
want
I
to call it,
couldn't
that
handle it, man.
weekend
I
that
had to,
Bernie's
had to get
president.
out. I had 30 years in with the government. I was like, I'm done. I can't work for Biden. I'm done.
I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. Anyways, man, I hope you keep in touch. I hope we can ask you more questions because there's so much more I want to ask you, and hopefully we could get you on
Sure.
again or get us on yours. I'll link your. I just subscribed to your YouTube earlier because I didn't know you
I
had a
got
YouTube.
things
I was
all
like,
over
oh,
the
he has
place.
a
I
YouTube.
don't even know half the stuff I got, to be honest with you, man.
So I don't know what I'm doing. You're throwing a Joe Biden out there, man. but I'm gonna link your YouTube and everything else. And anybody wants to ask you some questions, go follow this man. I'm gonna go ahead and share that real quick with everybody so they can see it. He's on X at where is
John
it at right
E.
here? Oh,
Fat.
at John E.
Yep. John
Say it one more
E.
time. I'm sorry, I couldn't
_
interrupt it.
FABB.
There you go, John E. _ FABB. He has a lot of stuff that he puts out there, so go follow him. Get educated on some of the stuff that's going on the southern border. And thank you, John, one more time. And y'all have
Great
a
night,
good
buddy.
night.
I appreciate
Peace.
you, man. Have a good evening.
You too.